So I had my second trip to the ER because of my shoulder popping out of its socket and not going back in. And you won't believe what I did to cause this thing to pop out. And you might be surprised of how my shoulder injury is relevant to your life. Stay tuned, because that's what we're diving into in this episode of King's Code Radio.
You're listening to King's Code Radio, where we are a movement of men rising up as kings unto the King of Kings, and producing massive results in every area of life. Here is your host, Paul Cooley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of King's Code Radio, the podcast for men that are willing to rise up as kings unto the King of Kings by answering the call. Making the choice to answer the call, that's what we are about. Today I want to talk to you about a shoulder injury. So I have a torn labrum, which I don't think I really understood what a labrum was until this. I want to share why this is relevant for you in your life. So basically, this all started out as an old martial art injury from my, late teens and early 20s, where my shoulder popped out of its socket once during a martial art exercise, but it immediately popped right back in. So it hurt, and it was sore for a while after that. But throughout the years, this would continue to happen doing some kind of physical event, martial arts. Try to think of some other examples, but there were just times where it would pop out and immediately pop back in. You could hear a crunch or something, I don't know, and it wasn't fun and it hurt. But 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, I had, and I might have even shared this on one of the podcasts before, I had a really stupid thing happen. And I'm not that old, so I don't know why, this is happening, but I don't go around falling. That's not something I do, and that's why I say I'm not that old, where I'm falling all the time. But there's one day in particular where I was just running nonstop, and there was a lot of just stuff going on. It was physically draining, emotionally draining, and I remember having to make a stop to pick up a whole bunch of chairs from a friend because there was some event taking place. Can't remember. I remember stopping by, seeing my grandma, and this is right before she passed away. And I remember getting home, and I was just exhausted. And it was not just, I'm tired after a long day. This was a different level of exhaustion. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know how not fun that is. And I know myself well enough to know, wow, I've reached this point of I just need to go to bed. I just need to sleep. And so, get through the evening. I got home kind of late that night, which was kind of rare. But I remember getting to the point where I got all the kids to bed, and I am literally about to get into bed. And I remember, I forgot something downstairs. And I end up going back downstairs. But I didn't quite make it all the way down. I missed, and the house is completely black. Like I said, I'm ready to get in bed, and I remembered something downstairs. So everything's locked down, shut down, kids are asleep. I am going to bed. Remember this thing downstairs. So I get to the point where I'm about to take my first step down the stairs, and I missed the first step. Somehow I completely missed the first step. Now I'm exhausted. I'm walking in the dark, not a good combination. And so I missed the very first step, and somehow, I still don't know how I did this, my foot, I somehow go flying foot first down the stairs. I like even trying to recreate this in my head. I'm like, how did I do that? But I missed the first step, and so both feet, I'm going foot first, boom, 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 down the stairs, boom, 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 But my left shoulder, or elbow, I should say, hits one of the steps and stops me from going down the stairs any further. Now it just stops, brute force, boom, stops. But in that process, my shoulder comes out of its socket. And it was not a fun feeling. Now, the unique part about this one, and I think it was just because of the brute force and blunt force of flying down the stairs, this was a little different kind of scenario compared to pop out, pop in. Because of the brute force, it lodged or dislodged my shoulder from its socket in a way where it did not go back in. And I remember going, I know this feeling, but this is different now. My shoulder's out of its socket, and it's not going. So I remember grabbing my arm, lifting it up, and going back up the stairs and immediately getting on the bed and laying on the bed. And I remember asking my wife, you got to pull my arm. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, all right, it makes sense. Pull the arm, it should pop back into place, right? And so she ends up trying that. This thing's not going back in. And we end up calling a friend, bless her heart. She's a physical therapist, and this is probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. She comes over, and they both start pulling on me, and I am and my arm is like stuck in this position here. It's still not fun. And this is like to the point where they're pulling my arm. They got their foot in my armpit, and they are pulling my arm, and it's like crunch, 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 but it's not going back in. And I finally get to the point where I'm like, this is a crazy amount of pain. It's time to just call it, right? It's time to just call it. This is, we need to call an ambulance. This needs to be like professionally done. Because this physical therapist had never dealt with a dislocated arm. She was even calling her friends that had experience, but it was late at night and whatever. So my shoulder was out of its socket for over 2 hours that night. We finally made it to the ER, felt every bump in the road in the ambulance ride. Why am I telling all this? I got a point and purpose to all of this. Well, that was about roughly 2 years ago. About a month ago now, on a Saturday, I had just gotten back home, took the kids to the pet store. We're getting feeder rats and mice for their reptiles and all of that. And I don't think we were home for more than 5 minutes. And I moved there was something related to the cat, because I'm not a cat fan. That's a whole other story. But I moved wrong, and my shoulder just slipped right out of its socket again. Now this is even worse because I didn't even do anything. Like, it's one thing to fall down the stairs. It's one thing to be in a martial art thing and it pops out. At least you got a cool story to tell, right? I literally moved wrong and my shoulder just slips right out. I remember going, I don't believe this. Not again. I don't want to go through this pain again, right? So again, grab my arm, run to the bed, and I'm laying down. And basically, when it happens, my arm gets stuck in this position. So I'm laying down or if you guys are watching this YouTube, it's like this, right? So it's out, and I cannot put my arm down. It's like stuck. It's lodged in this way where I cannot just put my elbow to my side. And so I tell the kids, I'm like, I need help. And I know this is just going to require another trip to the ER because this thing's not going to just go back in. Well, this time it was out for about an hour and a half. And, it's pretty bad when you get to the ER and you're telling the doctors what to do. Like, hey, if you just do this thing, it's going to go back in, right? Speaking from experience, this is what the last doctor did. Just do this. But this doctor wanted to try. They wanted to put me on my stomach and tie a weight to my arm and just naturally let my shoulder relax. I'm like, dude, my shoulder's not relaxed. It's starting to spasm now. It's not going to just relax. They tried doing a whole bunch of different positions, and it just, I can't even tell you the pain. And I said, you just need to do this, this, and this, and we'll get it back in. Sure enough, that's what it did. So why do I tell you this weird, random little story about my shoulder? Because of the trauma and this little mini crisis that I found myself in with my shoulder. Things are running through my mind when I'm laying on the bed the second time around and driving or riding in the back of a car, feeling every bump in the road once again, going to the ER. And I remember thinking, man, I probably should have listened to the doctors the first time around because they recommended physical therapy. They recommended following up, getting x-rays. And I didn't do that. I kind of took it upon myself to do the thing and build the muscle back up and all of that. Well, see, the thing is there may have been some damage that I didn't know about. And following up the right way with at least an x-ray or something it would have been a smart thing to do. Because of whatever may have damage had been done that first time around where it wouldn't go back in, it caused something to where the second time around, literally not having to do anything. It was out of the blue, right? There was no cause, no purpose, no situation that would make sense for this thing to flare up or just slip out again. And I think this is where it's relevant for our own lives. And I hope you understand how this is relevant to your own life. is when you have experienced a trauma or a crisis, like my shoulder the first time it's slipping out, and you don't take the proper steps to make sure true, proper healing has taken place, then it might not be right away. It might be years down the road, where out of the blue, something triggers something, and it flares up, and you are reaping the consequences of not walking in complete wholeness from the crisis before. Does that make sense? We do it all the time. And this is where, because of the damage that was done and even the further damage that was done the second time around, now I have a torn labrum. I got to watch a video on YouTube about what that looks like, and it's not fun, so I'm going to have surgery now. I bring all this up because we do the same thing in our own life. If you think about, I'll use relationships as the example. Often when a divorce takes place, if not both husband and wife, but usually one of them, often will jump right into another relationship. I guess we call that the rebound. I don't know. But the problem with that is, we don't take the proper time to heal. You might be in a situation, or you may have been in a situation where you have gone through a trauma and crisis of divorce or something traumatic in your marriage. And now I'll give you two scenarios. Let's pretend one, you fought for the marriage and it's restored. Two, you may have fought for the marriage, but it did not restore, and now you are possibly in a new relationship. In both of those scenarios, there's still the chance of, if you have not truly recovered and walking in wholeness from the crisis and trauma that has taken place the first time around, then out of the blue, you are taking the woundedness, you are taking what we may call as baggage into the new relationship or into the restored relationship. And in doing so, it's like a ticking time bomb, where everything is good and you're basing your wholeness on your happiness. Your wholeness is not based on your happiness. You are maybe in a new relationship or in a restored relationship, and you're on, man, this is awesome. This is great. Man, we never experienced anything like this. This is awesome. And then out of nowhere, that shoulder slips out. Then out of nowhere, something triggers something where it scratches on that wound that has not properly healed. And now you find yourself in a whole new situation that could lead to another crisis. And this is why it is so important as men that we take the time and don't deceive your own self. We deceive ourselves. We lie to ourselves all the time, and it's not a good thing. And that's why inside of our programs, we make sure we address those lies, destroy those lies, and walk in wholeness and truth. Because to say, and I can think of different conversations I've had with people, guys that have applied to join our King's Armory, which is a group of guys fighting for their marriage, and for whatever reason they chose not to. And then they'll follow up with me months down the road. Oh man, I'm in a new relationship. It's awesome. And not that I'm not happy for them, but I know there's a ticking time bomb in place here, because they're basing their opinions on their happiness. Hey, they got every dopamine and brain chemical going on and life is good. But they don't understand that there is damage that was done in the crisis that they experienced, and it wasn't healed. It's just all the good chemicals in your brain makes you feel good. And so that wound, that hurt, that pain goes under the radar. Tick, 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 until something actually triggers that thing. And then kaboom. This is the reality of what happens all the time. And I don't want that for you. And so I want to throw this out here because it is a real thing that men experience all the time. And yes, women do too. But this is a choice now. You having the understanding that this is actually a reality of what guys do is there can be wounds of the past trauma and drama and crisis. And if you are in the process of maybe rebuilding your marriage after a bad situation, or you're in a new relationship and you find yourself, maybe you've gone through divorce and you are rebuilding your life. So you might be rebuilding your life with the same wife in a new restored marriage, or you might be rebuilding your life without your previous wife. Whichever it may be, you've gone through crisis. And there are wounds of the past that have to be healed. And if you think that it's just a matter of time that's going to heal those things, often you're going to be wrong. Yes, time can cause the triggers to fade and the pain not to be there as much. But then I'm telling you, all of a sudden something happens. You're just walking along minding your own business and that shoulder slips out. And I don't want that for you, because then you can actually destroy the new thing that you're building or sabotage the thing that you're building. And then you're going through all of it again. And often many of the guys I talk to, they're in a phase and stage in life where they don't have the time to just continue to rebuild and then destroy it and then rebuild and destroy it and rebuild and burn it all down to the ground and rebuild again. They don't have time. What they're rebuilding right now, what you're rebuilding right now, might be your last attempt of rebuilding. And so it makes the most sense to make sure that you are walking in wholeness, that you have the proper steps, framework, support system in place where you are getting what you need to heal completely, to deal with lies and trauma of the past, so you can walk forward in wholeness, doing the things that God has called you to do and reaping the maximum results that you possibly can. And so I want to encourage you, and I want to personally invite you, if you find yourself in a place where you know there is hurts, pains, and trauma of the past, wounds of the past, and you know you're in the process of rebuilding, if you are in the process of rebuilding, you have to examine your life. And so I want to invite you to a brand new program that we are launching called Rebuild. Inside of this Rebuild program, we're covering the steps, the strategies, the frameworks that we teach inside of our King's Code programs. And the whole entire focus is on the topic of rebuilding. Rebuilding your life, rebuilding a marriage, rebuilding relationship with kids, rebuilding your faith, rebuilding your finances, business, your health, all these things. But the primary focus for many men that are going to be coming through this program is going to be on the topic of marriage. Some rebuilding their marriage, or going through divorce and rebuilding a new life. That's the primary focus we're going to be focusing on. So if you find yourself where you want a godly, Christ-centered, faith-based focus of getting right with the Lord, walking in wholeness, allowing Him to heal the wounds, not just you think time is going to do it, then I want to encourage you to check out what we have going on inside the Rebuild program. You can go to thekingscode.com/rebuild to find out more information and apply for this program. We are picky on who we allow in because we're trying to cause us and really build a safe environment for men that are truly in a place of vulnerability where they can rebuild in truth and honesty, and it's a safe environment for them to do so. So you can apply, again, by going to thekingscode.com/rebuild to find out more information. I hope this information has been helpful for you, and I hope you really take to heart how what happened with my shoulder can happen in any area of life if you have not truly allowed the wounds of the past to be healed. And I'll stress allowing God to heal those pains and hurts and wounds of the past. Because if He hasn't touched them, they're not truly healed. Until next time, guys, I hope, I wish, to pray for the best for you guys. I'm praying for you, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of King's Code Radio. It's a heavy thing when you're going through the pains of being a man that may have had your family stripped from you. Maybe your business has been destroyed. Maybe you've dealt with health issues. Maybe the people that should have had your back are the ones that have screwed you the most. It's a painful thing. Check us out more, and we'd love to have you a part of our movement, a movement of men rising up as kings, kings under the King of Kings, and producing much fruit in every area of life. God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode of King's Code Radio.